Hola, bienvenidos a todos. Soy Jonathan Riveros presentándoles el día de hoy en este video podcast de Habla, Baila y Conecta, organizado por el Ballet Clásico de Colombia. Hoy les queremos compartir en nuestro primer episodio, un episodio especial. Hoy tenemos a un gran invitado que es Darren Mcintyre. Por ende, la entrevista del día de hoy estará en inglés y estará subtitulada para todos ustedes, porque él nos va a traer muchos datos, muchos tips, mucha información sobre todo el proceso de audiciones, sobre qué es eso que ve un director. Darren McIntyre fue bailarín, ahorita es un coreógrafo y director de una compañía en Estados Unidos. Así que con ustedes, Darren McIntyre. So, hi, Mr. Darren. It's a pleasure to have it with us today. You're our first guest in Habla, Baila y Conecta. It's a podcast to meet with the dancers all around the globe. So, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks, Jonathan. It's great to be here.
So, let me introduce Mr. Darren. He's an amazing dancer, choreographer, and director now. The idea of this episode today is to talk about the audition time, the all the process we went through for the auditions. We want to hear your advice from the dancer side and also from the director point of view. You know, there are two different points of view of the same situation. So please let's begin with tell us a little bit with about you, about your career, your projects, everything.
Absolutely. So, well, first of all, I'm Darren McIntyre. I'm originally from Australia, and I participated to the Prix du Sun in was like 2000, no, oh my gosh, 1996, only yesterday. And I also then attended the Australian Ballet School, which I graduated from in 1999. And then I danced with the Australian Ballet through their dancers company process. And then I ended up over in Europe, firstly with a smaller company that also, what I really was interested in when I left the Australian Ballet School is I wanted to kind of encompass a company that did not just ballet, but they did operas and musicals. I wanted to kind of have more genres of dance to experience. And so I joined the Landestheater Detmold in Germany for 2 seasons, as well as guested with the National Ballet of Ireland, which was then called Ballet Ireland. And then somewhere along the way, I ended up in New York. In New York, I mostly freelanced, but I also danced with some pickup companies there. And then I ended up with Milwaukee Ballet and Louisville Ballet as my primary two companies that I danced with before I retired. As well as as I mentioned, I freelanced all over the place. So as a performer, I got to do a lot, to work with a lot of great people, dance a lot of great traditional repertory. I was very fulfilled. And then when it was time to kind of retire, I started dabbling in Broadway and musical theaters. I was given the opportunity to perform as the banjo in the new production by Gotcha Back Productions and the Australian tour, first Australian tour of banjo. So that was super exciting. Got to try acting and all that kind of stuff. I also worked on the ride in New York City for a while, which was a unique experience, performing all over different locations. Probably the most invigorating was around Columbus Circle. So that was kind of fun. And I kind of freelanced a lot until I found those positions of where I could move in and transition into other areas of the industry. So not to go into too much detail, but I was the assistant to artistic directors for a while at Icon Ballet Theatre in New York City. I was the ballet master and rehearsal director in an assistant to Karen Gibbons Brown's with Fort Wayne Ballet for a while. I also have been the interim artistic director at Lake Erie Ballet and the artistic director of Montgomery Ballet. And somehow I was actually moving back to Australia, but I ended up interviewing kind of last minute, just towards the end of the pandemic, for the position here with Ballet Pensacola in Florida. And I received the position and signed up for 3 years. And here I am in my third season, an inspiring choreographer. That's my passion. And I love creating new works and working with dancers of all kinds. I like to be inspired. So that's about me. That kind of sums me up. That was a lot of
Yeah,
information.
I mean, nice. You have a huge career. You are such a good professional. I remember working with you in Phantom, and well, yeah, we as a Ballet Clásico de Colombia also we have some plans with you because we love your job. So
Thank you.
also we have some questions here prepared for you. Like this is just
Absolutely.
random question about the topic we have today, that is audition time. We are
Absolutely.
January and it's time for every
It's
dancers
audition
to,
season.
yeah, that time of the year every dancer is like bombing. So
It's
the first question is, what advice will you have like to receive when you start your career as a dancer, and what advice you give us regarding this?
I think it's always easy to say, if only I knew. I think everyone questions
Of
that in
course.
their own life on a daily basis. So I don't think I would have. My best advice is go with what you know in that moment and just own it. I don't think that if knowing any more will change the outcome necessarily. And I think that whatever you do, as long as you can stay true to self, meaning yourself, and as long as you can go and pursue what you're aiming for and reach your goals, it doesn't matter what you know, because you're going to learn a lot along the way, which is going to make you the evolution of your life even bigger, more exciting. And so my best advice is just be you. Like, go in. It's okay to not know. It's okay to go in and I mean, you can research and prepare yourself mentally as much as you like, which you need to obviously do for Zen to keep yourself calm. But at the same time, it's you're human first. Artists are human first. The best humans make the best artists, and so life experience is something that is going to contribute to that journey, and everyone's journey is different. So I know I used to get very nervous for auditions. But then I learned that every day as an artist is an audition. Every single day you walk, you're always trying to reach your personal best. Just like an athlete is trying to crush their best time, swim their fastest race, run their, whatever jump their highest jump. Um, that's what we do. That's what we do on a daily basis as an artist, as an athletic artist. So I think that that's just really important for people to remember. We're all going to get to our goals. Everyone's journey is just going to be different. But if you're not learning along the way, then your career is kind of over. And I think so. Trying to pre-notion too much is just going to make your expectations and your challenges harder to achieve, because you're going to become too critical of yourself. And at the end of the day, every audition is going to be different. Even once you have the job, the hardest thing is keeping the job. They're gonna come in for casting every time there's a new production. If you're training, you're going to be auditioning for summer programs. Like, the word audition becomes part of who you are. And you're going to get told no a lot more times than you're told yes, or you're going to not get the role a lot more times than you get the role. That's just something that comes with it, and it builds character, and it makes us work harder. Hopefully it
Yeah.
makes you work harder.
Yeah, you say something really important, like the word audition is part of our life. Like from the day one till the end, to summer programs, to for a role, for a company. That's also why we want to talk about this topic, because it's really important. It's something becomes every year. Even if you are settled in a company, you said it, you need to audition for a role, to get that performance, everything. So that's really important. Another question we have here is, give us three important tips you will give to our dancers when they are auditioning.
I think that's a hard one, because every director and every choreographer is always looking for something specific and different. And generally, it's really hard to predict that. Sometimes it's really easy to predict it, but on most occasions. But I feel when I used to have my best audition as a performer, or when I'm looking at dancers now that I'm auditioning them, I notice that when people are comfortable and being themselves, I think that is the number one thing. There's nothing worse than seeing an outstanding dancer that has no personality, that has no sense of who they are, and that they're not able to articulate that and feel comfortable with that. It's very exciting when you see somebody that's a great dancer that just has a great vibe and energy. And so that comes from their personality, that comes from their confidence, that comes from so I think going into an audition, you really need to just trust you are where you are. It's not going to change the outcome, but you're either going to get the job or you're not. All you can do is your personal best on that day. And as long as you go away from the audition feeling, oh, I did my best, or I enjoyed that. So find some kind of enjoyment within the audition process. I think the other thing is to keep in mind that you quite often hear younger dancers saying, but I've done the time. I went to school for 3 or 4 years. And that is very important. But when you go in, you have to remember that the people on the other side of the table, the choreographer, the director, they're going to want to have somebody that's going to articulate their vision and their voice, because that's what the dancer becomes. The dancer becomes a muse for the choreographer or for the artistic director or for the ballet master. And I think that it's very important to keep a clean technique to do what is asked of you. If they ask for a triple pirouette, then you need to do a triple pirouette. If they say do a multiple pirouette, that's when you show off that you can do 6 or 7. But they're going to want people that listen and articulate and do but they want their voice to be heard as a choreographer, especially as a choreographer or as a director. So I think it's very important to keep that sense of commitment to your work when you're taking the class. Try to pick up those little details, the heads, the port de bras. The musicality is a really big one. If they ask for a specific rhythm, or you need to show that. Otherwise, if you just dance like this, you have to show some kind of sense of artistry and commitment to the project, or which you will become the muse of that director. So I think those two things are very important. Because you have to always remember a choreographer is like a painter. They start with a blank canvas. So the more plain and simple and clean your technique is, and if you can show artistry through that, that's going to make you more valuable, because most of the time they're going to be looking for you to start in the lower ranks of the company and grow you. They're going to, so unless they're looking for a principal, then the audition process is going to be very different. But most of the time you have to keep in mind you are part of the bigger picture. How do I fit into that bigger picture? And you need to really make sure that you're not doing all these bad habits. You have to really look at the style of the company that you're auditioning for and the style of the choreographer, and you need to try to really listen and pick up that information. And I think the other thing that I think that is really important is how you present yourself. There's this whole thing where, I'm not that kind of director that thinks everyone needs to be like absolutely just in a leotard and that's it. I'm okay with skirts and things, but you do have to think, you have to plan what you're going to wear. You have to make sure that you look presentable. Like if you go to a job interview, you're going to wear your best suit, or you're going to wear you're not going to show up in shorts with holes in them. And you have to keep that in mind. So when you're presenting yourself in an audition, it's very important that you have a good bun or a French twist or whatever it is. You put some makeup on if you're a girl, or if you're a boy too. Whatever you wanna but it should look clean and presentable and professional. You should look like you're a very marketable person, and so that's very important. And I think there is one more thing I think that you should. I think just remember that you need to be polite, and you need to. This day and age, directors and choreographers want to have people that they can communicate with. And I think so it's very important you say good morning, or you answer questions politely. Any interaction that you have with the artistic team or anyone surrounding that, if you're auditioning in company class, the other dancers, that is equally as important, because they want people that are going to fit in. They want people who are human. They want people that are going to, again, be easy to work with, and it's they're going to become your voice. So you want someone that's going to be able to communicate. So communication is very important. And that all starts jumping to another phase of the audition process, which happens a lot these days, especially after the pandemic, is that you have to really think about your headshots, how you present your resume, because sometimes, most of the time these days, unless you're going to an open audition where you submit it there and then, most of the time you're emailing that ahead of time or posting that ahead of time. And so that is the first impression that they have of you. So it is worth the investment to make your resume very professional, very easy to read, very short. You don't want something that they don't want 12-page resume. You don't want a 35-minute audition video, and it's very important that you read the criteria of what the company is asking for within their audition process, because if they're asking for a class video and you don't send one, then you might not even be looked at, because a lot of choreographers and directors like to see the classwork, because by the time you do the stage, like that is the what we were talking about, that canvas before. Every dancer needs to be able to do a tandu. Every dancer needs to do a plie. It's something that that's what gets assessed more so than what they do on stage, because what you do on stage is a process between the choreographer, the director, and the dancer. So as long as you have that foundation, that is what is key. And so that it's very important to listen and to read what that criteria is for an audition video or an audition resume or an audition photo, because that's the first impression. Again, it's like how you present yourself is going to be your brand, and people only want the expensive brands, right?
Yeah, of course, the best.
Yeah, so I think that was a lot of information again, but I think it was very valuable because I didn't know a lot of that when I was starting out. And again, it's okay not to know, but I think the more you audition, the better you become at it. So in the
That's the
beginning,
point. Yeah.
yeah,
That's the point of all of this, to share with the new dancers all this information, because sometimes you are nervous, you're not prepared, or you just see some audition coming really fast and you are not ready for it. So that's the point of all of this.
yeah. I
Also,
think if you can learn from the audition process, that is the biggest thing that you can get out of it. So no audition is not successful. Every audition is successful if you go away with the mentality, what did I learn today?
yeah,
How
of
can I
course.
better myself?
Of
Yeah.
course, that's really true, really important. Like to feel success of every audition, even if it's rejected or you never
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. I
So,
mean, I like a lot of people use the word rejected because I guess that what it is. I guess you do get rejected. However, I ask dancers to not look at it that way. I ask them to look at it like it was an opportunity that just didn't happen today, but it will happen, because as soon as you start, it's very, like, mental health is a big part of auditioning, and the more that you can teach yourself to find the positives within the negatives, or use the positive, like, it's like constructive criticism. Nobody really likes it, but it's very beneficial. And I think that that's something to keep in mind. So perhaps don't use the meaning, not you, meaning like perhaps when
yeah,
you're auditioning, don't tell yourself, I got rejected, because that's a different thing going from your mind to your body. And, that's very weird.
yeah,
Just say,
of
oh, that
course.
opportunity I still got something out of this audition. It just wasn't what I was hoping for, but maybe next time, at least now I can do my next one better. I think that it's all a mental game. I mean, that's what anything in life is, it's how we teach ourselves to take that criticism or to take that rejection and to turn it into something positive. And I think that that's what dancers need to consistently do, because as we said, we audition daily. From our first time we take a plie, if someone's watching us, whether it's
Yeah.
ourselves in the mirror,
Yeah,
it's yeah.
that's another question we have here for you, that what is the best way, like, to deal with all that rejection that you're talking about, that is not rejection, is like, how is a healthy way to deal with all of this, like audition, sometimes competition, so many no's in life you
Yeah.
have, but they are part of the way of the route.
Yeah. I mean, I think that I think it's true. I think that okay, firstly, you're gonna, every 100 things that you audition for, you're probably going to get 99 no's and one yes. Like if we're looking at the probability of it, there are those people that get 100 yeses, but I think that I think it just comes down again to, you can't, everyone is going to mentally be challenged in a different way, and everybody's going to take the rejection or the criticism or whatever it is in a different way, shape, or form. And I think that that's just really important that people keep in mind that, like, once again, as long as you're learning something, and I think that we just need to consistently tell ourselves that we are worth something. Dance is a lot, like, it's a lifestyle, so it's something that you most of dancers will understand this. You kind of chose it, but it also chose you. And a lot of people fight through these no's because they have the passion and they couldn't think of doing anything else. And I think that that is very, very important, because that's who we are. So I think that you need to take that doubt of, I'm not worth it because I didn't get the job, and look at it as if, like, well, I will get the job, but I couldn't imagine not doing this, but what do I have to do to better myself or whatever? And then you just need to be really realistic with yourself. Make sure that you're auditioning put yourself in the position to get some yeses, like maybe audition for a smaller company, or maybe audition for a smaller role, or or perhaps it's also okay to audition for a company more than once. Like, just because you don't get accepted the first time doesn't mean that you're not going to get it the next time. Every audition season, the director's looking for something different. It could be something as simple as, oh, I only have tall girls, so I need a tall boy to partner them. Like, the logistics of that. It could be something as simple as, I have to replace a dancer who had this specific quality, or I need a principal at one point, but now I need a corps de ballet. So all of those entities make the audition process from the director or the choreographer different. And so as long as you're approaching each audition knowing your value and just trying to be your best self, you should get something out of it again. You should be able to enjoy it. Nobody likes being told no. That's the truth, but it's life. You're going to be told no matter what industry you're in. You're not always going to get what you want. And we have to just consistently tell ourselves, one door closes, but another one opens. And you just have to keep looking for doors to open. Like, that's just life, So yeah, I feel like that there's not much more I can say, because, as I said, everyone's going to kind of take it in their own individual way. But at the end of the day, it's just a mental thing. The more you can tell yourself positive things, especially when you're feeling down or feeling like you're not being successful, the more you have to just keep telling yourself, or ask yourself, why am I doing this? And then you'll be able to answer to yourself why you're doing it.
Yeah.
So it's easier said than done, because it is a very tough industry. And unlike any other industry, like, you're being judged in a very different way, because it can feel personal. And I think that that's the biggest thing. You should never take an audition rejection or no as personal. It's just, it wasn't meant to be that day, or you just didn't fit the criteria that day. It's not personal, like, oh, you're a bad dancer, you're whatever, like, you're not an artist, you're not musical, whatever. Like, some of those things could very well be true, but it's not all. Like, you're still human, you're still a dancer, you're still an artist, and you're still putting your best foot forward. So you shouldn't feel like you're not worth anything because you didn't make it that particular day. But I do understand, I was a dancer too, and I know how hard it is to consistently hear
Yeah.
no. But it's just, you just have to keep telling yourself yes. Someone will
Yeah.
tell you yes, even if it's yourself. So
That's really
surround
important.
yourself, yes, surround yourself with people also that are encouraging and supportive of that process. If you know someone is going to be like, well, you suck, blah blah blah, don't hang around them after an audition where you got told no. Go and hang out with somebody or hang out with other people that also experience the same thing, and find something that can take your mind off it. Or I think that that's who you surround yourself with is also going to help when you get these no's or these yeses. Don't isolate yourself. Don't feel people, especially people that are other dancers, understand what you're going through. So communication again is very important, that you talk about it. Don't bottle it up. Yeah, because that's just going to fester and make you not feel very good. So
Okay, Mr. Darn, we have another question for you. An advice to deal with the nerves or anxiety that appears when is the moment to doing an audition or a performance.
That's a good one, because I was that dancer that sometimes in an audition, especially in New York, where there's like hundreds of people in the room and don't have much space. Sometimes I struggled to pick up the exercise, or I struggled to pick up the choreography if we were doing choreography. Because I think the biggest contribution to that was my nerves, or I was getting anxious. And so I think that it's very important to remember that everyone in the room is in the same boat as you. And if you give into those nerves and you give into that anxiety during the process, you're not going to do your best, put your best foot forward. And so I had to really learn how to do breathing techniques. I had to really learn how to shut everything out, block everything out, and focus on what I was watching. It's very important that dancers know their terminology, especially if the choreographer is a little older and they're not able to demonstrate. Generally, they'll have somebody demonstrating for them. But I think that you have to kind of broaden your knowledge of vocabulary, dance vocabulary and terminology, but you also need to keep in mind that that terminology is going to vary from place to place. And so it's okay, again, to ask a question. If you don't understand what an entrelaçé is, they'll probably say, well, or jeté en tenant, or whatever. Like there's so many variables within technique these days, especially when you go to different countries. If you're auditioning in Europe, every country you go to is going to have a different accent, or even
Yes.
if you go to Australia versus England, they're going to say, oh, do your lame duck, in Australia. And in England, they're going to be like, lame duck, whatever. So like, you have to really be attentive in an audition, and you need to know your vocabulary, but you also have to practice picking up from visual, because especially if you go to like a musical theater audition for Broadway or something, it's it's like bam, like they go, we're gonna do da, 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 and let's do 3 groups. Like, it's very fast paced. And so you have to hone in and really practice those skills. And the only way to do that is by obviously just going to every audition you can, even if it's just for experience, even if you're not hoping to gain a position out of it. But auditioning is a process, it's a practice. But you can also practice some of these things at home by like taking a video of choreography and learning it in the studio, or those tools are really important. And I think that the only way that you can overcome anxiety or nerves, it's okay to have them. You wouldn't be human if you didn't. But the only way you
Yeah.
can overcome them is by confidence, is by knowing that, feeling secure. And so that is my best advice to overcome that. Is you need to work on how can you really feel confident? How can you feel secure? How can you block everything out so you can focus on what you're doing? And that is not an easy skill for a lot of people to do. And as far as performance wise, the biggest word I want dancers to remember is trust. They need to trust in the process that they have done in the studio, knowing that it will transcend to the stage. And I think that even though you have those moments where someone might blank out on a choreography, or they might be off on a count, or they might fall, slip or fall off point or fall out of a pirouette. Those things happen, but they're not gonna, like, you need to be able just to keep going. And but it happens to everyone, even to the world's best ballet stars. Everyone's fallen on their butt. It's just you wouldn't be human if you didn't. But I also feel like, again, you just have to be confident and trust. If you don't trust, that's when you're going to become anxious. That's when you're going to become, and if you know that you have to execute a specific element, let's use fouettes, for example, on stage, or in an audition, and you struggle with those, the only way you're going to get better at it is practice it. Don't always execute your strengths that you already have in your everyday to day dancing. You need to really know what your weaknesses are, and you need to really be like, I have a weakness, admit it to yourself. And it's totally great if you have a weakness, because that means you're not perfect, and your career's not over, because you still have something to better in yourself. And the moment you feel like you can do everything perfectly, you kind of stopped your growth. So um, the only way, again, to kind of hone in and control those nerves is by feeling confident. And so if you know that you struggle with fuertes, if you know you struggle with a double tour, if you know that you worry that your leg is not 180 degrees, then you really need to work on those things. But you also have to stay true to yourself and really analyze and be like, well, my anatomical parameters are also this. So if you do struggle with something, just try to make it the best it can possibly be. You know, not everyone's leg needs to go up around their ear. As long as you work on your feet, work on your alignment of the calf. So even if your leg only goes to 90 degrees anatomically, then you have a nice line. Like, you have to just really own yourself. You have to own your technique. You have to own your artistry, and you have to just believe in it and trust it. So trust is the best way to overcome nerves and anxiety, from my opinion. I think that as soon as you can learn to do that to yourself, and as I said, it's the best feeling to have butterflies in your stomach before you're about to go on stage, and you can hear the orchestra like warming up, and like, you don't want to not have that, because that means you care. But at the same time, I do understand you have to be able to control those nerves, because you need to be able to do 32 fuertes whilst feeling butterflies in your stomach. So, but again, just really believe in the process and be part of the process and focus during the process.
Okay, yeah, that's really important because as you said, like somehow it's fun and it's important to have that nerves, but yeah, the important part is to control that nerves to go on stage. Okay, some other
Again,
question.
it does come back again, like we were talking about before, about that mental health, and it's very important that young dancers and dancers really take care of their mental health. Like, they have to consistently provide themselves with positivity in an
Of course.
industry that is very difficult. And I think that that's very important. And again, that comes down to surround yourself with people. If you're obviously in a company and you're not happy, it's okay to move on to another one. It's not the end of the world. It doesn't make you a bad person. It might just not have been the right fit. But if you're in a company and you're consistently feeling negative and that you're not progressing, or the person at the front of the room is really not treating you well, then it's okay to walk away and try something new. Like, I think that that's also very important. You need to listen to your conscience and your body, and be real with yourself about where you are, and you never ever, as soon as you stand still because you can't move forward, it's not helping you. So surround yourself with people that really do believe in you, support you, and care, because that part of that will help you. Yeah.
Yeah, that actually is really important. Like we are talking about the health of the dancer, the nerves, and that's true. Like sometimes the nerves that comes with a dancer is if I leave this company, I will end my career, or I won't find another company, or and you're just trying to handle everything, the stress, the anxiety, the problems. And yeah, you're completely right.
A lot of people do feel desperation when they're uncomfortable. But as we spoke about before, one door closes, another one opens. You just have to find the open doors. But it's much worse for your mental health to maintain a situation that is not healthy for you, that is not building your confidence, is not letting you excel. As soon as, if you're stuck, if you're not progressing, if you're going backwards, then you're not helping yourself anyway. And it's best that you consider finding a more positive work environment, or a more positive artistic environment, or a more positive just environment. So I think that that's just very important. You should never, as an artist or as a person, feel like this is my last chance. You know what I mean? Like, there's always going to be another opportunity around the corner. You just have to go into it positively, or you need to be okay with closing a chapter. And once you can accept that, and it's not easy to do. Again, this is very easy for us to sit here and be like, you should do this. Da, da, da.
Yeah.
but at the same time, I think that it's very important that people hear that it's okay, again, to be human. It's okay to not reach your expectations, but want more. You wouldn't be human if you didn't have ambition, and you wouldn't be human if you didn't feel the pressure. You wouldn't be human if you didn't feel um, unhappiness, happiness. Like that makes especially artists, we wear our emotions on our sleeves. So it's very easy to, but I think that it's very important to know you always have to take care of yourself mentally first. You need to always find a way to hone in on that. And when you're feeling doubt in that, it's very important that you surround yourself with people that will support you. So,
Of
and
course,
that's totally okay.
of course. Okay, let's see. Another question we have here. What advice can you give to those dancers who are looking for a place to continue their careers? We're talking like exactly that to, dancers that are uncomfortable on the place or they're just getting out of school. What advice can you give them in that moment to find a place? Because as you
I
said,
think,
sometimes it's really hard to, find that open door.
yeah, I think that you just have to be very honest with yourself and know what you want. Um, we find, um, at least I'm noticing it more now that I'm on the other side. We find that a lot of dancers are auditioning for something that they don't even know what they're auditioning for. Like they might be like I quite often get letters from dancers with their applications saying, "We love your repertoire. Um, the diversity of this, and this," and I'm thinking, but I don't do any of that really well. You know what I mean? And I think that so um, I think that it's very important, and this is going to feel like a lot of work with what I'm about to say, but it's very important that you do your research. It's very important that your applications are not just let's send the same letter to 20 companies because it's not personalized. The probability of getting a no is more likely because the director again wants to know that you actually have an interest in working with them or the choreographer or whoever. And so I think that it's really important to personalize things and know what you're auditioning for and be true to yourself again. If you don't dance burlesque, why go and audition for the burlesque nutcracker? You know what I mean?
Of
I
course.
mean, I say that because it's very easy to find yourself auditioning for something and becoming very uncomfortable because you didn't read all the information or you don't know what you're auditioning for, and that happens quite often. Um, like, oh, you might think, oh, you might hear the name of a company and you go to audition for it and they're completely contemporary and you're a ballet dancer and you don't like contemporary. Um, I do believe that versatility is very important these days, and I think that dancers need to be able to do a bit of everything and push themselves out of their comfort zone. But at the end of the day, you always have to feel true to yourself again. You always have to keep in mind that you will only progress in your career if you're happy and if you're inspired. And so that's very important that you just don't go and audition for every single thing because you feel like you have to find a job. You need to find the right job. Um, Now I know that a lot of people will feel, but I need stepping stones to get to my ideal. And that's true. But if you take a stepping stone where you're not going to be moving forward, if you're not going to be happy, if you're not really being pushed and challenged, then that stepping stone is really not worth stepping on. You know what I mean? So, I mean, you might find yourself in a company because it was something you felt you needed to do just because, and you're not really happy there. And you might find yourself stuck there for 3 years and then your motivation is gone and you're not really dancing your best. So then when you go on audition, that's what people are going to see. So I think that that's really important to keep in mind. Know what you're auditioning for, know your personal ambitions, really focus on personalizing everything at an audition or for an audition, and really making sure that you're putting your best foot forth because you want to and not because you feel I have, like, again, like we were saying before, like you feel this is my last opportunity. In some cases, unfortunately, the industry probably entails that people have to just take the job because they need it, but don't get stuck there. I think that that's the only way you can move forward artistically is if you are being challenged and if you're happy and you are inspired. So as soon as you don't have those three things in your workday, it might be time to evaluate your situation and what you need to do. And again, everyone's journey is different. And so everybody's path will be, you know, it's not like you can just go straight down the highway. You know, some people do, but sometimes you might have to take a U-turn, or you might need to go around a roundabout, or like I think that it's okay for your journey to be different. We want your journey to be different. You should want your journey to be different, but don't settle for something if you're not happy with it.
Of course. Of course, that's really important what you just said, because like dancers, we are sometimes so desperate to find a job, to find a place, that we are not really looking for what we want. And then comes all this anxiety and depressed and uncomfortable situations that are coming.
Yeah.
Okay, we have another question here for you.
Yeah.
What are those tools or abilities that a dancers must have to be part of the company? Now you are directing, so that's kind of like from that
Yeah.
side, which are these things, like more general, maybe not just for you, but what are these abilities, these skills that you said, okay, this really need, like as a person too, like I know you
Yeah.
said it before.
I think that I think it's very, you have to always keep in mind that the person at the front of the room has their vision and they're entitled to that vision because they went through the process of being a dancer, being in a company, like they've earned the right now to have their voice as a choreographer, as a dancer. And I think that the tools that are very important are kind of like what we spoke about in some of the other questions, is that you have to make yourself um, you have to become the muse of somebody, and the only way you can do that is by enticing them that you've got the artistry, the technique, and most importantly, the desire or the willingness to work with that person. Because there's nothing worse when you have to work with somebody that doesn't really want to work with you. Or if you are saying, I want to do this, this, and this, and the person's like, yeah, but I only do this. Like, you have to really be versatile. You have to be open-minded. Those tools, you have to really want to work with somebody. And if you don't want to work with someone, you have to learn how to fake that you do. But I think that that's the point. Like, the people that are choreographing or are directing really want to have their vision come to life, and they're using these dancers as their instruments. Now they're going to want to play the instruments in their style, in their way, in their, whatever it is, because again, it's their voice. And so the dancers just have to always remember that what is lovely is when a choreographer or a director really trusts their instrument or trusts their dancer, and it becomes a collaboration. But that trust has to be built. And the only way you can build that is by being open-minded, is being willing to learn, is being willing to try new things, is being willing to really put your full self there for that person. And then that trust is built, and then we create amazing art. Then it becomes a two-way street. If it's a one-way street on any side, whether it's the choreographer doesn't like the dancer or the dancer doesn't like the choreographer, then it's not a great partnership. And so I think that that's what dancers, the ability to be able to find good partnerships through being open-minded, being versatile, being well prepared. Um, you know, you might not get cast if you can't do 32 fouettes and they're looking for a black swan. You know what I mean? Like, why? Not because
Yeah.
they're being mean or personal to you. Like, it's just a fact. Everyone's waiting for those 32 fouettes. That's a very generic example, but it's the same with choreography. Like, if the choreographer has an idea or a concept that they want portrayed, and the person's not really investing, like the dancer or the artist is not really investing to portray that, then the work's never going to be excel. Like, it's not going to excel to its full potential. So I think it's very important to realize your potential, prepare yourself, be open-minded, and just be really willing to to work with whoever it is you're choosing, to work with, because just like the director or the choreographer is choosing you, you're also choosing them.
Yeah, all of that info is like really important to touch, to talk about it because yeah, to have that relationship. Sometimes it's harder, sometimes it's easier, but it's important as you said.
Yeah.
So
I
thank
mean,
you.
it's very frustrating, I think, for a choreographer or a director or even a ballet master or even a partner if you're dancing, if a dancer is consistently coming and being like, I'm tired, or I don't want to, is it okay if I mark it? Or like I feel like whilst we recognize that dancers need those days, if that's become something that's consistent, it's making the is it's not building the relationship, it's making it problematic. And so I think that again, communication is so important. If you are struggling with an injury, you are struggling, you are tired or whatnot, because dancers do meet that. It's the way you articulate that to your director or your choreographer. Like it's okay. Again, it's okay to have those, but I think that if you just don't say anything and you then don't try, then what is the person going to think? Whereas if you go up and say, look, I have my knees, or I just want to let you know I'm still going to do my best, like there's just a way to articulate. And so communication is something that dancers need to become experts at, because if they are silent, because you quite often hear that saying, and I used to think it, oh, I'm scared to speak up because I don't want them to think I'm lazy. I don't want them to think I don't want to do this. Like, but if you don't speak up, it's worse, you know. Um, so communication is very important um,
Yeah, yeah, of
for,
course.
yeah.
Okay, we have this other question, but it's personal question for you. Like, what is the message you given through the dance, your dance career? What like your dancing, your choreographers, you as a director, like what is that message that you're trying to give to everyone?
That's a hard one. Um, I like to tell stories, so I have lots of them. um, I don't know. I think if there's anything that I can take away from my career that I wish to give back, if that's sort of the direction we're going, is I think I just want every single person to feel that they're human first and that they are worth something and that they're confident. Because I think that it doesn't matter what you do, if somebody doesn't have that like that sense of purpose, that sense of self, then they're not going to do a good job anyway. And I think that every time when I would go out on stage, I just wanted to make people feel something. Whatever that was their own interpretation, because art is subjective. Like people are going to see art in all kinds of ways. They'll see the same piece of art and they'll interpret it differently. That's why I love doing what I do, is because my voice speaks so many different languages, meaning my body, like dance speaks so many different languages. It makes people feel so many different emotions. It's infinite. Like there's no boundaries. And that is exciting, scary, but it's just so rewarding and fulfilling knowing that you are making a difference in so many people's lives in so many and making an impact in so many different ways is it gives me chills. Like, it's and I think that that's what, but I think that I really do think people need to remember I'm a human first. I'm only going to do my best if I'm true to myself. And when you see somebody out on stage dancing something and they're being true to themselves, there's such a genuine quality that is just projected into the entire auditorium and I think that, as I said, everyone's going to interpret that from their own life experiences differently, and it's just beautiful. Like I think that that's what I would say I, as Darren, um, got out of my career, and what I hope to give back is I hope to give that platform to people to be able to change lives, use dance as a platform of statements of education, of storytelling, of emotion, um, just to move people in the way that they wish to be moved from someone's performance, whether that's mine or my dancers or another company's. It's exciting. It's moving. So kind of it.
Of course, no. Thank you, Mr. Darren, for being with us. It's such a pleasure to have you. You have huge careers. You have so many good advice to give us. So thank you so much to be with us. I don't know if you want to say any last message, anything you have in your mind.
Um, no, I just want to say thank you for having me today. And I hope that everything that I was able to give back to your show will really help other dancers find their way, help them feel more confident. And I just want to say thank you to you and everyone at Ballet Classica for what you guys are doing for your dance community, finding a place and being a platform for the community to be able to be part of something on a bigger picture is always very difficult to find. And so I'm very proud to be part of your show and to be part of whatever collaborations we have moving forward. And I just really hope I was able to help today in some way, shape, or form, whatever it was. Even if it was just if someone was bored and they needed something to listen to. but I think that I really appreciate you taking the time to hear my story and to hear my advice. Advice is again subjective, but I hope somebody will have heard something today that will help them.
No, thank you. It's an honor for us as Ballet Clásico de Colombia in this podcast as Habla Baile Conecta to have you, to be with you, to share with you. Thank you so much to take the time to share your experience, your advice. Thank you so
Thank you
much.
so much, and we'll see you next time.
See you. Bueno, y gracias a todos ustedes por sintonizarse en este primer capítulo. Espero les guste, se sigan conectando con nosotros. En 15 días nos vemos para nuestro siguiente episodio. No olviden darle like y suscribirse para poder crecer como comunidad artística. Bueno, hasta una próxima. Chao, chao.